Welcome back, Rankers. I'm going to talk about Google Plus today. It's been frustrating me just a little bit. First of all, it's, up until now anyway, apparently there's a new app on its way, but the app on iOS for Google Plus is pretty sucky. Google Plus has announced today, though, it is open for anyone to use. Anybody can just join up to Google Plus. They've also opened up their API for Google Hangouts. That's the live video experience. So it'll be interesting to see what developers can come up with there. They've also announced that if you have an Android phone, that you will now have mobile Hangouts, which is very interesting. So that's mobile video group conferencing. And they've also announced a couple of other things to do with document sharing and those sorts of things on Hangouts, which is great. The thing that is frustrating me this morning is the new search feature in Google+. Now, this is something I have wanted for a while. The reason I want search for Google+ is, well, just have a look at my TweetDeck, and you can see there I've got, way too many search columns, right? And it slows the whole desktop down after a while. I have to shut down TweetDeck because there's so much going on. So I was hoping Google Plus was going to get to a point with search so that I could start using that more than TweetDeck. The reason I haven't been using Google Plus as much as I would have liked to use it is because of the lack of a good experience on a iOS device, iPhone, iPad. Because that's when I do most of my tweeting or social mediaing, if that makes sense, which I know it doesn't, is when I'm on a laid-back device, and I really don't have that with Google+. Google+ is great at the desktop, sucks on a mobile device. Well, an Apple mobile device anyway. Maybe it's great on Android. But the thing that's frustrating me with search this morning, first of all, thank you to Josh Rowe for sharing this on Google Plus and bringing it to my attention. If you now go into Google Plus and search for anything, you will get these results here, which you can do save this search. Now, this particular search I'm doing here is the name of a website that was involved in GoDaddy hosting compromise last week, and one of our clients and good mate, David Meerman Scott, got his site got basically infected with this malware, which we fixed. But I wrote a blog post on how we fixed it and how we restored the Google rankings and all those sorts of things. And I've done a search for that. That's why it's come up in there. And you can see here we've got best of and we've got most recent. So if you click most recent, you're going to find my other persona talking about it. But if you click best of, that's what you will see. Now, interestingly, I also put in the title of that blog post, GoDaddy malware. And the reason this is interesting for me is it's been driving me nuts this morning. And staff are probably wondering, when is Jim going to get the show out? And the reason for this, the reason why I'm late today is because it's driving me crazy. Okay, so there's me. But if I go and do the search, by the way, you can now save these searches and they come up in your Google Sparks, which is similar to what you can do with Twitter. You can save a search and see who's talking about that thing and dip into it whenever you want. And you can search either Google Plus posts, people, everything, or just Sparks. Sparks is pretty much just, for the most part, the web, but it has a slightly different algorithm to it other than the actual web algorithm. Because if you look here, I've got GoDaddy malware, and we've got here stuartmedia.biz is number 1 for that search, and domains directory is number 2. Whereas if you go and do that same search in Google, in a sorry, I've been looking up this man this morning, and all will be revealed why. If I go and do that search of GoDaddy malware, on a browser where I'm not logged into Google in any way, shape or form, you can see here that domains directory is number 1 and GoDaddy.com is number 2, and we are down here about, what's that, 7 or 8 or something, or 6, about 6 or 7. Anyway, so you can see that there's already a good difference. Now, the only sites that are relevant here to that search that I just did for me is the number 1 result, which is great, is this register.co.uk result, which is great. This one's not. It's back in May. This one is relevant. And, of course, the one I write is relevant. So, out of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 results, only 4 of those are relevant. Only 4 of those are relevant. So, but remember here where I've done this Sparks search, I'm actually logged into Google+, and I'll show you something else in a second. If you just want to have a look at Google+ posts, then it's just people talking about it, and people, that would be something that would appear in their bio or their about section, or maybe their name or whatever, or their job. And then we have everything. So, if then we go back to our Camino browser, which I'm not logged into Google+, and I do a search for GoDaddy malware, you can see here that the post that I made actually on Google+, which is this one here, where I just announced the link to the blog post, I didn't actually put any other content around it. All I did was put the link and let Google bring in the rest from the actual blog post. Now, when I do the actual search here, not logged into Google+, which you can now do if you wanted to go and do a Google+ search, so you can find out what people are talking about within Google+, but you don't have a profile, or you want to do it not logged in, you just go to plus.google.com/s/. If you do that, we get the Hacker News here, which was the 17th of September, but my actual post on Google Plus doesn't appear at all. Now you could say here that, see here we've got best of and most recent. If we do most recent, we can see the lineup changes. This guy, this Kevin Burns, he still stays there, and he's the man that's been driving me nuts this morning because he's number 2 in best of. He posted it yesterday, so it makes sense that he's there in most recent. But one of the things that is different here, and my post doesn't appear at all, and as far as I know, it's probably about the first or second post on Google Plus about it. But guess what? I didn't actually write anything. I just placed a link to the blog post. So therefore, it's probably less important because all I did was place a link. It wasn't actually me saying anything about the link. So the lesson here is if you're using Google Plus, it's probably a good idea to say something about the link. But this guy, Kevin Burns, why he's driving me crazy is because his post has got no shares. The word malware doesn't appear anywhere in his post, but GoDaddy does, and GoDaddy points to the link. GoDaddy's in the title, and it's in the link, and all the rest of it. So there's a couple of signals there. This number 1 post, it's had 4 shares, 2 +1s, and one of the comment has a +1. So you can, and it's got GoDaddy, and this information up here, he's actually written that. So he's got GoDaddy and malware in the actual post. So the lesson here is if you're linking to something, write about it, use your keywords in the Google Plus post that you're writing about if you want to come up in Google Plus search. So it's operating very differently from, say, Google normal search in that you're not going to get things in here that are really old, mainly because Google Plus isn't that old anyway. But even the Sparks results where we've got everything, if we go and have a look at Sparks again for GoDaddy malware, this is me not logged in. You can see here StuartMedia.biz is number 1 for that phrase on Sparks. Domains directory is again number 2. So Sparks is operating slightly differently to the results that we're seeing in actual Google. And I think this is a signal as to where Google is heading for certain types of searches. It won't apply to all searches because there are a whole host of searches that people will do that have nothing to do with how recently that they were posted. They could be doing something on JFK or whatever. You're not interested in recent results. But it's all very interesting. Kevin Burns has been frustrating the hell out of me, but I think I've worked it out that because I thought, well, maybe it's authorship, and I went and had a look at his profile, and he says he's a blogger, but then I couldn't find any blog posts that he'd written, and I was searching everywhere, and I think, oh, well, maybe it's a lot that he's doing on Twitter, and maybe something he's doing. It wasn't. So basically, it's because he mentioned those words actually in his post. I did this whole search too in Google Plus for the title of the article on the register.uk for this particular phrase, and the number one result wasn't Kevin. It was Joel Trast. And it doesn't make any sense there because the words that she's used there, except she's probably more recent. 12:53 yesterday. And Kevin was, let's have a look. Kevin was earlier, so there goes that theory. But it's interesting, and I hope you have enjoyed that. If you do get onto Google+, please hook up with me, and hey, we may even have a hangout. Won't that be something to do? And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.